I really thought that I covered all the major differences between teaching on Long Island, New York, and teaching in Florida. And I created a video about it, but after teaching in Florida for 2 years, I realized I've only scratched the surface. So in this video, I'm gonna give you more updated information about the differences between teaching in New York and teaching here in Florida. So stick around. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I create a new video. And thank you so much for the people who already hit that thumbs up button. That really makes it easy for people to find my videos and to really learn from them and get the tools that they need to be successful as a teacher or just finding out information about the education system and beyond. So thank you so much for being here. All right, so let's get into some of the differences that I saw after 2 years teaching here in Orlando, Florida. So one of the major differences is you don't need to be a certified teacher in order to be hired as a teacher in Florida. Yes, you heard that correctly. You don't need to be certified in order to be hired as a teacher. So in New York, absolutely, you need to go to college, you need to have your bachelor's degree and pass all of the tests that you need to in order to be certified to teach. In Florida, you just need to have some sort of degree in any subject, in any field, and need to be working towards that certification in education. And I believe you have 3 years to complete your requirements needed in order to fulfill that certification in Florida. Also, what's interesting is in order to be a substitute in Florida, all you need is a high school diploma or equivalency in order to sub. If you have no experience in the classroom whatsoever, the school district or the school that you're being hired for will provide some classroom management information to you, and that varies by district or by county. So that means the sub requirements will differ from district or county to county, which I find extremely fascinating because in New York, you need to be a certified teacher even to have a sub position. And the pay is very different as well. So to sub in Florida, with my research that I came across, in OCPS, which is the county that I'm teaching in, you can make from $12 to $13 an hour as a sub, which is roughly about $32,000 a year. That's something to consider if you're just looking to sub here in Orange County Public Schools or just in Florida in general. Definitely do your research to see where you would be best fit as far as your salary. I also created a video on how to get certified to teach here in Florida, and I'm going to link that below in the description as well as right here, so you can check that out if that's something that you're interested in doing. But again, you don't need to be certified to get a job in Florida. And the process to getting hired in New York is way more rigorous than it is here in Florida. So if this is something that you've been wanting to do, it's definitely easier to get a job in Florida than it is to get a job in New York, just because of the process. And honestly, the market is pretty saturated in New York too. So there's that. The next thing that I found to be a major difference teaching on Long Island and teaching here in Florida is that data is everything. And I know that a lot of schools are moving towards really looking at data in the classroom, in the school district, depending on the subject, depending on the grade levels, data is becoming a bigger deal. But something that I've noticed over the past 2 years teaching here in Florida, data is everything. So teachers really are analyzing data in order to guide their instruction. There are so many factors that affect student performance that I really, really dislike equating students to numbers and looking at test scores. But I think there's too much of an emphasis on that. In New York, we only had, as an English teacher, one major Regents exam, and that was in 11th grade. For English, here in Florida, we give the FSA, which is in 10th grade. And they need, in both states actually, you need to pass the English exam in order to graduate. But I know that Florida is data heavy because we are a little bit behind New York as far as rigor and things like that go. And you're gonna see why as I continue to go through the differences, you might understand why overall Florida is a little bit behind. Okay, so something else that I've noticed as a major difference is your schedule can change on any given day. I have had in my school year either 170 minutes of planning or absolutely no planning period. So depending on the testing that's going on in Florida will dictate your schedule. So we don't have testing weeks. We used to have this on Long Island actually for midterms and for final exams and regencies. We used to have specific testing days where you didn't come into school. It wasn't regular instruction. You would just come in for the exams that you needed to take. And it was easy for the schedules to be made in that way. In Florida, they keep instruction going while there is testing happening. So they would make certain periods a little bit longer while shortening other periods. And because of the way the schedule worked, there were some days that I had no planning period whatsoever, and I was left with just a 25-minute lunch break, which is what I get every single day. So in New York, they definitely allowed for more breaks for teachers in order to stick to the contract that the school district had. We didn't want teachers to have too much contact time with students because it was going against the contract. Here in Florida, things are just a little bit different. Teachers are expected to put in a little bit more time when necessary. And again, it wasn't something that happened every single day, but it really happened along the lines of, testing days, when we had in-class surveys, social emotional learning days. So that would really change up the schedule, and that would happen through various times throughout the year. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not discrediting New York teachers. I know that I worked my butt off in New York, and I work a lot harder here in Florida because of the amount of time that I am expected to be with the students. So yes, you're working hard in both states, but I found that after the 2 years experience I have had here, I'm definitely working more than I should be. Another major difference is 25-minute lunch, not only for teachers, but for the students as well. So there's really not a lot of downtime for these kids. When we sit down and think about it, we also have our planning periods. The students don't have that. They don't have a period off. On Long Island, I had study halls, I had, free periods. Some kids had multiple lunch periods a day. Here in Florida, they don't allow that, especially in my county. So the students really only have 25 minutes of downtime, and I feel like that's affecting their performance in class. And then that brings me to my next point, another major difference. Now, this doesn't mean that this doesn't happen on Long Island, but in my experience, my periods that I have here in Florida are a lot longer than what I was doing in New York. So in New York, we had 42-minute periods in the district that I was enrolled in. And here in Florida, in Orange County, I'm teaching 50-minute periods. Seems like 8 minutes really, is that gonna make or break you? No, but when you only get a 25-minute lunch and one planning period, yes, it does definitely affect the teaching schedule. In New York, some classes range from 40 to 45 minutes. If they had block scheduling, they would range from 50 minutes sometimes to, I don't know, I've seen schools that do 90-minute blocks, but they also were giving the students time to have this downtime. So they would have a lunch and they'd have a study hall as well to kind of get their work done and have that downtime, have that brain break that the kids are really not getting here. Another major difference is that differentiation is essential, really, in order for you to be an effective teacher here. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't differentiate in New York. I definitely did. It was something that I did regularly. But from my experience here, in the position that I've had for the past 2 years as a 10th grade English teacher, it is essential to differentiate your lessons. You will have students that range in all abilities in your class, so you need to make sure you're meeting the needs of all of these students. Even though the state gives teachers these teacher lesson plans, which are called CRMs, and I talk about that in another video. Again, I'm going to link that in the description down below so you can check that out. But it also gives you the ability to differentiate your lessons in order to make sure that every single student is successful. This is somewhat different from New York because we had more of a tracking system that really was able to figure out where students fell in their placement. So in the district that I'm in here in Orlando, Florida, we have mainstream students, which are it's general education. We have honors classes, we have AP classes. Great, all fine and dandy. But then we also just had a life skills class. There was nothing for that in-between area for students that were struggling. So you're either severely disabled and in that life skills class, or you're mainstreamed. There was nothing in between. In New York, on Long Island, we had co-teaching models where it was an inclusive setting. You had students that had IEPs or 504s in a classroom with students that were mainstreamed. That's awesome. And you had 2 teachers. Here in Florida, I am basically teaching classes that, if they were moved to New York, would be considered an inclusive setting. But the difference is I'm the only one teaching. I'm running the show. So it kind of makes me run around the classroom like a chicken without a head, because I'm trying to help all of these different students without having that co-teacher there. So my job is a little bit more challenging. Another major difference that I noticed teaching in New York and teaching here in Florida is that there is a higher level of English language learners, or we call them ELLs, ELL students. So there was a major change that happened in my school in particular over this past year. So not only were we dealing with the pandemic and virtual learning, hybrid learning, but now in 10th grade, they removed the ESOL class that they had for 10th grade. So the students that were really struggling learning English were just thrown into my class. There was no in between, no ESOL class to help them. So for me, this added another challenge on my year. And it really, I don't think was fair for the students either. I had a student that she had no basic English language, and I had to give her a translator in order to help her with most of the assignments. So I didn't think it was fair that they removed that course from the student schedule and from all of the student schedule. Something to consider when you're contemplating moving to Florida. Just know that there is a large ELL population here, and that's going to potentially add another layer of difficulty for you and for your students. And I mean, they do have paras and TAs that can push into your classroom, but I didn't have a lot of that happening this year. And I just felt like it was a major challenge for a lot of my students, and I had to prepare them for the state assessment in April and May. So what is something that you never knew about teaching in Florida? Please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear from you guys. I truly enjoy reading your comments, and I do get around to responding to every single one. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can comment below, or I'm going to also link my email address here and in the description down below. I do get around to responding to my emails. I have responded to a lot of people that were reaching out regarding the email template. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my other video about how to get hired to teach in Florida. I truly hope that you learned some valuable information that will help you to find your dream job. If you did, please click that like button so we can help more people find my video. And I want to give a huge thank you to all my subscribers, because they have truly been very loyal and helping me come up with new video topics. So if there is something that you want to see me create a video about, please make sure you add it in the comments below or send me an email, because I would love to hear from you. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell icon so you'll be notified every single time I create a new video. Thank you so much for sticking around. Happy teaching.